I was just setting up.
Yes, beautifully. Excellent. Okay. Well, I'm going to leave everything over to Marcus. So I guess we are ready at this end to get rolling.
Okay, great. And I'm ready from this end to get going. So my name is Bianca, and I'm a paleoclimatologist from the British Antarctic Survey on this ship. Actually in the bridge right now. So what I'll do is I'll show you around a little bit, and then I can tell you a little bit more about my work, and then you can ask me questions. So the bridge looks like, there's the captain down there in the sunglasses. And from the bridge, you can see out exactly where we're going. So right now we are just off the south coast of Violet Island. And we are cruising up the coast to a place called Cape Graham Moor, which is a kittiwake and murre colony, apparently the largest in Canada. And we've spent the morning at an archaeological site on the south coast of Violet Island. So this is what it looks like out the ship window. I hope you can see. It's a beautiful, beautiful, calm morning here. The sea has been glassy, and we've been looking for whales, but we haven't seen any yet. So this is what Violet Island looks like. You can see that there's a little bit of ice on the top. Snow patches. Really give you some. I'm a paleoclimatologist, which means that I try to reconstruct how climate has changed, going back thousands of years, millions of years in some places. And I've been working mostly in the Arctic as well as in the Antarctic. So what I do is I take lake sediment cores, and I look at the fossil algae and pollen, the chemistry of the cores, and I try to reconstruct how climate has changed.
Okay.
What's that?
Good morning. My name is Marcus. I'm going to interject a little bit just to recap for their audience, because we're in a gallery with public, it's difficult with the volume, and that's no fault of yours. It's just
okay. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. So your family name again, Bianca, is sorry?
It's Perrin.
So Bianca Perrin is a specialist in Arctic paleoecology, I believe, and that means that she's the fossil records and often, if I understand correctly, she's looking at the use of diatoms as a means of studying change over time and understanding our current ecology in the Arctic. Bianca est paléoécologiste qui étudie dans grande partie les fossiles qui sont capables de retrouver le fond de l'océan en faisant la collecte de ces échantillons. Ça leur donne une espèce de compréhension de l'écologie au fil du temps. Voilà. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. That was a very good translation. Yeah, so I so this is, I think, day 7 fleet, and then it was decommissioned, and then Canada C3 has renovated it, so it's actually a really comfortable, nice space. And we've got 14 crew members, we've got 23 participants, we've got 23 staff members, more or less. Is that right? And yeah, so we've come up the coast of Baffin Island. I've been on since Iqaluit. So we've gone from Iqaluit to Tiktaarjuaq, and then now just coming into Pond Inlet tonight, which is the end of this particular leg of the expedition. But then the expedition continues on through the Northwest Passage, around the coast of Alaska, and then down to Vancouver Island.
So they're nearing the end of their leg. This has been the ship has been sailing for nearly 70 days or so, approximately, and they're nearing the end of this particular leg. where crew will switch over. A new group of people will get to participate in the expedition for the next 7 to 12 days or so, however long it takes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about maybe the research that has been particularly interesting to you, but also you've been commandeered. You work on other people's research projects as well. Is that right?
Well, I'm actually not one of the scientists on board. We've got a couple of scientists from the Canadian Museum of Nature. We've got Mark Graham, who is sort of in charge. He's the chief scientist on board. And then we have Messi, I don't know her last name, who's a invertebrate biologist. And then we have a guy who's sort of like an ocean technician. So those guys have been taking, I think there's 20 projects are there maybe? Yeah, 24 scientific projects on board, and they've only got 4 people essentially to carry out all of those projects. So they've been taking water samples, and then they've been taking lots of samples of plants and insect life. In the water, they've been doing plankton tows to look at what the productivity of the water is in different areas. And basically getting a sample all along the coast of Canada to look at what the biodiversity is like. And we've also been taking samples from marine plastics. For example, there's an oceanographer named Boris who has been on the deck most of the leg looking for marine life.
So to recap, pour faire un résumé, il y a à peu près 24 projets scientifiques en cours. La grande majorité des projets ont comme objectif un échantillonnage, non seulement pour comprendre l'état présent de l'environnement, mais aussi pour se comparer aux échantillons qui ont été faits il y a 100 ans ou plus. Et comme ça crée une archive pour le futur aussi. Ils peuvent comparer des points dans le futur au point aujourd'hui. Donc comme ça, on a un recensement de biodiversité. Et c'est à une échelle que nous n'avons jamais pu recréer ici au Canada. Le fait que le laboratoire se déplace d'une place à l'autre nous permet d'avoir accès à vraiment les côtes canadiennes, ce qui n'a jamais vraiment été fait. So this is great for species and biodiversity sampling on a scale we haven't been able to do before because the laboratory itself is moving across the Canadian coastline. So the large bulk of some of these projects that are being done are to sample, to be a baseline of comparison not only for the future, but also for the years to come.
Sorry, I think I've interrupted your transmission because there's a whale off the starboard side of the ship. So I will direction.
About 300 meters, but I don't see it anymore. It's coming up now.
But you can see beautiful Baffin Island off in the distance. If I see the whale, I will certainly let you see it as well.
That's exciting. Thank you. Yeah, I understand that. Well, we have some questions from visitors at the museum, but one of them related to the changing ecosystems of the Arctic due to sea level change. Can you speak to that?
Sea level change. That's an interesting question. Yeah, you know what? I've been studying the way that the ecosystems change because of climate change, mostly. So the way in which a reduction in sea ice affects lake ecosystems, but also there are some changes that you can see because of sea level over a very long time scale. So sea level in the Arctic so far has actually been quite small. The sea level rise because of climate change, but over tens of thousands of year timescales, when you have big glaciers coming down to the land and then retreating, then you have really large changes in sea level. And in that case, you see these major shifts from places that were once estuaries become basically lakes or become dry. and places that were once dry can become inundated with water. So you basically have a migration up and down the intertidal zone of different species. But I think to date that the changes from sea level rise have been quite minimal in the Arctic so far. But that said, there are many changes that we anticipate with melting, for example, in Greenland and the Antarctic. In fact, we will probably see bigger changes with
Thank you. It's fun to go off the board a little bit. How about, do you mind if I just give you some rapid fire questions?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I have a question from Tiva here who wanted to know, is there any of your scientific work, I understand that you're not directly involved in the research, but from your understanding, does any of the scientific work have to be done at night? Is there any stuff that's day, night specific?
They've been working mostly during the day. But I know that when they go on land or when they go out in the boat, we have a small boat. Maybe I can show you. There's a small vessel down there that they go out and they take lots of water samples, and then they have to come back and filter them. And when they're on land, they take lots of plant samples. And so those guys are often working quite late in the night, trying to get those samples so that they're able to go back to Ottawa.
All right, here's another one. Do you or have any of your crewmates gotten seasick?
Yeah, we had a day out. We had to go really far out into Davis Strait, which is sort of like in between Baffin Island and Greenland. There was lots and lots of sea ice along the East Baffin coast, and so we actually had to go way out, closer to Greenland than to Canada, to kind of get around the sea ice. And when we were in there, it was really wavy, and most people were ill.
Sounds like an adventure in itself. Yeah. Maybe you can spill the beans a little bit for us. I understand that there's always the hope of finding new species. Is there? You want to break any news? Anybody find anything new here?
You know, if they have found something new, they haven't told me yet.
Okay. We're not in the loop yet. I get it. And I have another one, a little more esoteric. How about?
No, but I'm sure they are finding. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Actually, I'd like you to repeat that. We lost you in the satellite.
There's so many new species that we haven't discovered, especially things like algae and fungi. And actually, in this trip, they're doing a lot of DNA work to sort of characterize what the environment is in terms of DNA. And so there's a whole world out there that we haven't actually categorized yet. So there actually will be lots and lots of new discoveries that come into this expedition. Excellent.
So it's a lot. Yeah, for those of you who haven't heard about environmental DNA, this is really an exciting field, right? This is maybe within the last 10 years or something to that effect, where you used to have to be able to directly sample, let's say you take a forensic scientist, you get blood, testing DNA and finding out who it belongs to. But imagine now being able to scoop up pond water or ocean water and being able to do a scan of the DNA that's present in that water. So it could be, just really microbial-sized amounts of DNA, giving you an entire environmental assessment of a region, really. So this is really exciting for being able to understand what's happening in the ecosystem. You can probably speak better to it than I can, though.
No, that was a very good description.
There's a question here that I found kind of fun, and I'm sure that's out of your expertise, but why do fish die belly up?
Sorry, I didn't actually hear your question. What was that? Why do fish float belly up? Yes. Well, I think what happens is after they die, the gases in their body start expanding and they start decomposing. And so then the gases are in their stomach and the stomach is below, and so then they actually just float up, belly up.
Handled it with points. That was great. I'm gonna turn the operator in a second here. Keeping in mind that Bianca's expertise is paleoecology, is that right?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, paleo.
I'll move away.
Do you have any questions? Yeah. All right, we have one.
I'm sort of the audience. My question, so you can see me ask it, is in all of your testing, especially up in Greenland, where I saw you done a big study, were any of the horizons of paleoecological change way outside the bounds of where you thought they might be?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of your question again?
When you were
in Greenland,
or anywhere, where the horizons of change for the species in a much different place than you had thought they might be.
Species or the landscape had changed in a surprising way?
The timeline. Was the timeline different in any way than you thought it might be?
Oh, for species changes and environmental changes?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things is that I've been working in the Arctic for almost 20 years now, 19 years. And what we've been finding is that all of the changes that we've seen in the lakes, for example, in Greenland and also in the Canadian Arctic, have been, they've all changed really rapidly. Since, well, I did a project on the northernmost lake in the world, in northern Greenland. And we actually saw that the lake was frozen up until about 1920, and then starting in 1980, we had this massive increase in algae. So, I mean, I think that one of the things that's kind of remarkable about current climate change in the Arctic especially is that everything's happening so quickly, so dramatically, that I think we've all, as a community of scientists who work in the polar regions, been shocked by how quickly it's been happening. And, you know, part of the work that I do is to kind of put recent climate change into a much longer timescale perspective. So putting it, you know, the recent meteorological record, which only goes back maybe 100 years in Greenland and about 50 years in the Canadian Arctic, taking that into a much longer timescale, so back 1,000 years and 10,000 years. What we see is that we're sort of in this unprecedented rapid warming relative to the last sort of 4,000 years. So, you know, to be honest, like the pace of it, the scale of it is much more dramatic than anybody could have anticipated.
Thank you very much for that. That's great.
Sure.
Do you have any other questions? I'm giving this back.
Well, Bianca, you have a captive audience here. Is there something you want to speak to personally about your experience in the Arctic, or anecdotally, or a message you want to convey?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I've spent, as I said, almost 19 years working in the Arctic, and sort of know places where you know, that things might get old, but they don't. This has been an amazing 2 weeks. It's been incredibly beautiful, but some of the things that I've seen have been kind of shocking, even to me, in a kind of depressing field. So last week, when we were coming back in towards Baffin Island after being seasick, we came across these giant, what are called tabular bergs, which are icebergs that come off of an ice shelf. Now, the Canadian Arctic and Greenland don't have many places where ice shelves exist. The north coast of Ellesmere Island has ice shelves, but in the last 50 years, there's been a 94% reduction in the extent of the ice shelves. And Greenland doesn't have many more left either. And so what we saw floating along was actually part of an ice shelf that had broken off from northern Greenland. And it's so far up in northern Greenland, it's like 84 degrees north or something like that. And so it travels all the way down along the east coast of Ellesmere Island, and then down into Baffin Island, and then was sort of stranded on the coast. And to me, it seemed a little bit sort of like an extinct or a rare species that's kind of washed up on the beach. And so it was really shocking to see this, and there aren't that many tabular bergs that will exist in the Arctic anymore. Yeah, it was quite an important thing to see.
The question from the audience is: Can you pinpoint like a span of time? I don't really know how to scale it, but a span of time in which the rate of change has spiked. Like when we know climate has been changing since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, say in the 1700s, or that kind of thing. But like, when did we hit the hockey stick?
Okay, well, that's a great question. The Arctic has really, we started to see change, warming starting in the 1920s, but we got into kind of astronomical warming around 2000. And after that, since 2000, we've been into this really rapid change in temperature and all the warming effects.
So, I mean, that directly covers your professional career. Is this?
I started working on Ellesmere Island in 1998, and that was the warmest year on record at that time. And then it's really every year is almost has broken that. So yeah, it's kind of this is my career. I don't think it's my fault.
I was only hinting at it. Do you? Yeah. What do you do to avoid becoming cynical?
To avoid being cynical?
Yeah.
That's a great question, too. You know, I've been working with Students on Ice for several years, going with, and I don't know if anybody in the audience knows about Students on Ice, but we've been going with a group of between 14 and 19 from Arctic regions and from Southern Canada and from all over the world into the Arctic regions. And, you know, they're amazing kids. And I think, you know, if the future is in their hands, then I think we've got a really, really great future. So that's one thing that keeps me from being cynical, is working with really inspiring young people. And the other thing is that, you know, in the last 100 years, we've undergone so many technological revolutions. And so, I mean, I think as a civilization, as a species, we're very adaptable. And I think that, you know, if we decide to tackle this crisis, I think we can. So I haven't lost hope.
That's a wonderful answer. I appreciate that very much. And as, you know, as museum workers, we work with that young audience as well all the time. So that's, yeah, I have a similar experience in that regard. We want to thank you so sincerely for your time, making yourself available, for giving us a peek into your world and outside the windows of the Polar Prince and Canada Sea Free. We're delighted to have you in the Museum of Nature today, and yeah, we look forward to hearing more about the Sea Free travels as you continue. Enjoy the rest of your trip.
Thank you.